5 things to remember about Mycoplasma suis. Mycoplasma suis is one of the few cardiovascular diseases that is seen in pigs. It is pretty sporadic, but some veterinarians may see it during their career. So it causes anemia in growing pigs from roughly the mid of the nursery stage all the way into the growing and finishing stage. In the literature, you may find it as epiresrizone suis, so that is older name. Now it's been changed to Mycoplasma suis in the early 2000s. And so this pathogen is pretty different than any other we have studied. It binds to the red blood cells and causes lesions to the surface of the red blood cell, and then that red blood cell is just gonna die. It's gonna autolyse and dies. Some recent research shows that the pathogen can also enter the erythrocytes, and that could be a mechanism to escape the immune system of the pig. So that can make it challenging for the treatment part that we will see later. So Mycoplasma suis is not very common. It's a sporadic disease, and usually it is subclinical. The pigs do pretty well if they're only infected with Mycoplasma suis, but if there is a co-infection with any other disease, especially if it's immunosuppressive, that's when we're going to start to see clinical signs. So co-infection with PRRS, for example, with porcine circovirus type 2, all of these pathogens will have Mycoplasma suis flare up in the pig. Unfortunately, the clinical signs are not very specific. So we're going to see pigs that are paler, that are not doing really well, that may lose some weight or not grow as fast. In a chronic stage, we may see some icterus on the pig, so that kind of yellowish color, but this is pretty rare. So the diagnosis is done usually with a blood smear. So we're going to look at that smear under the microscope and identify with staining the mycoplasms at the surface on the red blood cell. Some PCR also can be done, but because it's such a rare disease, not all of the diagnostic lab will provide a PCR or will have it on their routine test. Blood smear is cheap enough, and everybody can do it, so that's an easy way to diagnose the disease. Remember that mycoplasm cannot be cultured easily, so culture would not be a good way to go to diagnose Mycoplasma suis. We can treat pigs for Mycoplasma suis, and tetracyclines work pretty well. Remember that the pathogen can enter the red blood cell, so that may be a little bit challenging, and so we may need to treat the pigs for a longer period of time to make sure that we catch all of those pathogens. Unfortunately, there is no vaccine available for Mycoplasma suis. Prevention, well, because it's a blood pathogen, any kind of risk factor that would increase fighting and biting, and so exchange of blood between the pigs would be something to look at. Additionally, if there are injections that are being done, like vaccination, for example, the needles can also transmit the disease. So if we suspect Mycoplasma suis, we would have to make sure that the needles are changed regularly between pigs.